As the war with Iran approaches its 7th month, the New York Times has taken a closer look at Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's pattern of firing top generals, leaving the Army, in the paper's words, quote, essentially rudderless. The Times points out the Army has not had a chief of staff since Hegseth fired General Randy George without explanation in April. Hegseth has also forced out at least 3 senior officers who had been viewed as potential successors to General George. Meanwhile, Army Secretary Daniel Driscoll, the service's top civilian leader, is also expected to leave the administration in the next few months. The paper goes on to note that as recently as January of 2025, there were 10 4-star generals on active duty. The service currently has 5, the fewest in decades. In a statement to the Times, the service downplayed the impact of the firings, with an Army spokeswoman saying leaders are, quote, actively driving the Army's mission forward, ensuring that our strategic objectives are met, our modernization efforts remain on track, and our global readiness is never compromised. Joe.
He's a joke, and not only is he a joke, he's a dangerous joke. There are many jokes that have been appointed in this administration, and they're such jokes that they're not causing damage to America's national security or to institutions that Western democracy based upon. But Pete Hegseth is dangerous. He's a joke, and he's incompetent, and he's destroying the culture inside the Pentagon. It's going to take a while to rebuild. Let's bring in right now the President Emeritus of the Council on Foreign Relations, Richard Haass. Richard, I want to talk about this story, but I want to circle back to a Wall Street Journal story from yesterday that talked about how this war began 6 months later. You had Benjamin Netanyahu and Lindsey Graham pushing Donald Trump to go to war. And then you had our intel agencies that came up with a very pithy conclusion that intel communities have been coming up now for over 40 years. And it was this: if you attack, first of all, if you kill the supreme leader of Iran, it will usher in a more hardline Revolutionary Guard type leadership that will more aggressively pursue nuclear weapons. Well, the intel community was right on that count. And the second thing they said was, again, not new, something that we've been hearing for 40 years now: if you attack Iran, they'll close the strait. They've done both of those. So you had Vance and Rubio a bit more skeptical, but you actually had Pete Hegseth and General Kane pushing Donald Trump and telling him, don't worry about these complications. We'll be able to take care of any of this. And of course, once the war started and all these military successes were going forward, Donald Trump's turning around, like looking at them, yelling, why isn't Iran backing down? Well, Iran wasn't backing down because the intel community and everybody else that he could listen to, other than a handful of people, were saying, don't go into Iran. Talk about 6 months later, just how badly Pete Hegseth got this wrong.
He got it dead wrong. But, Joe, I feel I ought to issue a public apology, because one of the people who got it right, and it's good you're sitting down, was Tulsi Gabbard. Everything she said, according to the Wall Street Journal story, was spot on. You mentioned the strait was going to be closed. You'd get a worse leadership. And she also said this would actually fuel Iranian interest in nuclear weapons. Check, check, check. That's what the intelligence community's meant to do, speak truth to power. She did it. General Kane turns out to be something of a disappointment here, because at least the way the story had it, because he was, I think, promising more than he could deliver. And yeah, Pete Hegseth comes off as a reckless cheerleader. And it's the combination of the war story and now today's story about how he's basically wrecking one of the institutions, the U.S. Army, which over the last couple of decades wins most improved. The Army emerged from Vietnam broken. And what we've seen over the decades is the Army has been rebuilt and it's been improved. And I used to work with Colin Powell, and he would talk about it with enormous pride. And what we're seeing is essentially the purging. Let's use the word what it is. It's political purging of people who, for whatever reason, Pete Hegseth doesn't work. So this will be elected, and we need an intact army, because right now there's a revolution going on in military affairs. Iran is way ahead of us, as we're seeing in some ways. Ukraine is ahead of us. We do not need a broken army at a time it needs to, in a sense, fix itself.